Hi people, welcome back. Sorry it's been a while since I actually spoke to any of you, but you know, exams happened. Anyway, I'm back now, and I hope you're all doing well. This week, I'm doing one massive as heck speed paint, and that is my Pride speed paint. As you might remember, last year for Pride, I drew a series of Pride characters, which, now that I think about it, are all just characters that happen to be part of the LGBT community, but I like them, and they're cute, and so this year I'm drawing them again in one big speed paint, which I did most of in one sitting, which was probably not healthy, but I was running out of time and I've got to pack my uni room up this weekend, so that happened. I'll talk a little bit about each character and then go into some more general points about the piece as a whole. It's me though, so this could get a little bit rambly. If you don't like my ramblings, mute this video, put on some of your own music, and just enjoy the speed paint. So as I'm sure you can tell, I drew a couple of characters in pairs, so we're going to start off with the beautiful lesbian couple in the background. Specifically, my lesbian character and my trans girl, who I've decided is also super gay, because why not? When I first started sketching for last year's speed paint, the lesbian girl was actually already a character I'd created for a different project. Her name is Livy, or Livia, but I just call her Livy. Both her and her brother, the pan guy, were kind of character designs I did back in 2019, based on my rabbits. That sounds weird, but it's a thing, and I did it, and I actually loved her design so much that I drew her again sometime late last year, which means I believe there are 4 different iterations of her on my Instagram right now. And actually, what you'll notice between the 4 different iterations is that her hair, which was originally silver, has changed through various hues and saturations of pink every single time I've drawn her. Will this be the final colour for her hair? I highly doubt it, but you never know. Usually, I tend to draw her with a black tank top and some pink and white striped trousers, like, you know, the swishy, flary ones that are really in at the minute? They looked fashionable. I don't know a lot about fashionable. But because all these different characters were going to be in one speed paint and they all have such different colour palettes, most of them I think are vaguely related to the flag they've got, I made the executive decision to just put everybody in all white because I didn't want the colours to clash next to each other. My colour theory is not that good. Because most of these characters were created for Pride videos, I don't really have a lot of backstory or massive personal details worked out for them. But Livy's been around for so long that I kind of have a picture of what she's like in my head anyway, as sort of a very confident, outspoken kind of character who just does not take anyone's nonsense. And also because she was one of the first characters I created for this series, in my head she's kind of like the leader of the group. Like, you know that one friend that all the other friends kind of migrate around? That's her. Also, this is kind of a side note, but does anybody know which way up the lesbian flag's actually supposed to be? Because last year I drew it with the orange on the top, but when I was looking for references this year, the orange was on the bottom, and I got really confused. So, our next character is my trans girl, who is going by the name Rachel. And I say going by because I could have sworn she had a different name last year, but I've completely forgotten what it is, and so we're sticking with Rachel until I change my mind. Rachel's probably one of the characters that I made the most changes to compared to last year, as a year ago I really didn't know a whole lot about trans identities or trans people in general, which is my fault. I knew they existed, so I drew 2 for my little collection, but they were some of the last ones I drew and I was getting kind of bored by that point, so I didn't really put in as much time and effort as I could have. This time around I did some extra sketches on the side to really pin down her look, and I actually got rid of the weird half-bun hair thing, because basically every girl in this speed paint had a bun otherwise. And I wanted to change it up a little bit. Plus, giant plaits are super satisfying to draw. That said, I kept her outfit basically the same as in her original design, both because it's not something I'd ever wear, and therefore different to how most of my other characters end up getting dressed, and is also... my clothes tend to be more slightly on the masculine side, and so it's nice to draw girls in dresses. But also because she is in the background of this picture, so you can't really see the outfit. And so it didn't seem worth doing a complete redesign of what she was wearing when you wouldn't get to see it at all. That said, it gives me an excellent opportunity to redesign her outfit in the future if I ever do single portraits again. The next pair of characters are my bi girl and my trans boy, who are stood together mostly just because I imagine they're supposed to be quite soft, introverted characters, and I feel like they'd be friends. I actually do remember my bi girl's name though, which I believe was Ari, so I guess I'll talk about her first. I think when I originally designed her, she was based off a rough concept I had in my head of a girl from Livy and her brother's story, where they both ended up having a crush on her. But past that, I never really worked out her story anymore, and honestly she doesn't really have anything in common with the original concept anymore, except for her hair, which has always been long and black. Her clothes are also still roughly the same as her original design from last year, with the t-shirt tucked to the jeans and the big fluffy cardigan. Around this time last year, I was basically living in this yellow cardigan I had that looks a lot like the one she wears, just in yellow obviously. And as the bi girl was the character that I identified with closest, I kind of projected my fashion sense onto her all the time, and I really wanted to keep that here because this girl is kind of like a little bit a part of me. She's the first bi character I ever designed, well, sort of the first bi character I ever designed. I'll go into that later. And, like, I just wanted to keep her the way she was because she is a little piece of me. In the past year, I've just become so much more open about my bisexuality and my identity in general, and this character is just a little ode to my shy bi phase, and I like that about her. With her is my trans guy character, who I have renamed Noah, because once again I have absolutely no idea what his original name was. Now, not a lot of him is actually visible in the finished picture, and so whilst I did change the cut of his top a little bit, you can't really see it, despite me telling myself I'd put more effort into him this time around. That said, 2020 me definitely deserves some credit with his design, as I think Noah is the only character I drew last year who has both hands visible. And given how rubbish I still am at hands sometimes, I think that deserves a little mini round of applause for 2020 me. However, Noah last year had really boring hair, which I tried to make more interesting by putting some blonde highlights in, but I felt this year he deserved better, and so I gave him proper floopy hair with cute little waves, which I actually love drawing. I don't have much of a backstory for this guy, but he's definitely a bit of a soft boy kind of character. As for whether him and Ari are dating or just have like a really cute cuddly sort of friendship, I'll leave that up to you guys, I think. Also, he's the only character I broke my must all be dressed in all white rule for, in that I wanted to give him some little bracelets on his wrist just because you couldn't see much of his outfit, I wanted to add some more interest, and I thought they'd look better in rainbow colours than in white, so breaking the rules for this guy. He's really cute. Something about the way his face just came out is so, like, huggable. I just really love him as a character. Next on the list are my ace character and my pan boy. So I'm going to start with my ace girl because I believe I started sketching her first, so hopefully this will make more sense. She is currently being renamed Mia because, once again, no idea who she was before, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm shocked I don't remember because she was probably my favourite of all of the designs. I changed her up in a couple of places, namely removing the hoodie and changing her eye colour. I ditched the hoodie because with all this white clothing going on, I didn't think it'd be too easy to tell what was actually happening with her outfit. And also, I really liked the hoodie off the shoulder in the original drawing, but given that I have drawn her with her arm around her friend, I didn't know how to do off-the-shoulder hoodie without the folds getting confusing, and basically I was trying to make my life easier. As for her eyes, whilst the blue in the original was very striking, it didn't look particularly natural, and since she was already my favourite design by far, and had freckles that she didn't need, and had really cute little curly wisp bits of hair, I just didn't think she needed the extra pizzazz of having, like, really bright blue eyes as well. My favourite part of this character, and probably my favourite part of the whole Speedpaint, was in fact drawing her hair. I've always loved drawing good hair, but it's just so volumey, her bun, for some reason, and it looks so cute. Actually, that said, I also love drawing Noah and Rachel's hair too, so maybe it's just a thing I have about drawing thick hair. Obviously, asexuality is a scale, and there are lots of different identities encapsulated within it. I should know, because I've spent about half a year trying to work out which one of them actually fits me, but all I've got so far is, I'm on the scale, who knows where. Unfortunately though, I don't have the time or space on the canvas to draw a character for every single one of those identities, so I can hope you can take some comfort in knowing that Mia is definitely meant to encapsulate the spectrum of asexuality rather than one fixed point on it. Equally to all my aromantic friends out there, I will definitely try and add an arrow character next year, and I wanted to apologise that I didn't have time to design one this year. Blame exams. It's not a valid excuse, but blame my exams. With Mia is Jem, my pan boy, who was originally designed as Livy's brother back in 2019, and once again based kind of loosely on one of my rabbits. That said, I immediately scrapped his silver hair, because initially it made him look too much like Livy, and so I decided to dye it bright blue instead. I would also like to quickly mention that the beanie he's wearing does look less stupid in colour clothing. It's just I think it's the white that's making it look a bit dodge, but it sort of works. Jem has changed a lot since his first design, as when I originally imagined him as a bi character in his own story. Back then, I didn't really know a lot about pansexuality at all, and so didn't realise that pan probably fit him better. To be fair, there have been plenty of times in the past where I've actually thought pan as a label fits more accurately with my identity, but I currently decided to stick with bi just because it's easier to me and feels more suitable. And I've never really been a person to get bogged down in the specifics. That said, maybe a day will come when I do feel like pan suits me better, and this guy is kind of a reminder of that. Jem is also a character who, if I was writing him into a real story, rather than just as a character to represent pan people, I probably would have made him non-binary of some description. Probably demi-boy, or maybe just demi-gender. Because I'm doing roughly one identity per character though, I don't really feel like it's necessary to specify here. But all in all, I just feel like Jem is not only an awesome pan character, but he's a great reminder that sexuality and gender are fluid things and the labels you use can change over time, and that's completely fine and important to remember, and important for me to remember. Also, his hair's just kind of awesome, so, you know. So the next character on my list is Isaac, who is my gay character. And Isaac here is always going to have a very special place in my heart because of the exact process I went through when designing him. You see, Isaac was one of the first characters I sketched out when I was working on this group. I already had a rough idea what Livy and Jem were going to look like, but of the others, Isaac was the first one that I was designing from scratch. And at that time, it was also when I first started thinking about doing my Arthurian Legends comic for the first time. And so whilst they may not look that similar anymore, Isaac's first sketches actually spiraled out in two separate directions to create both Isaac and Dinadan. Now, the lankiness and the curly hair are probably the only similarities between the two characters, but as I don't plan on ever using Isaac in a story, I've always imagined him to have very similar personality to Dinadan, because they did come from the same initial idea. He's laid back with a good sense of humour and just generally kind of nice to people. I also have learnt since my first Speedpaint that there actually does exist a flag for gay men other than just the standard rainbow. I don't know whether this is genuinely something new since last year or whether I've just discovered it now, but either way I felt it was more appropriate for this piece. Although if I ever do draw all these characters separately again, I now have an excellent excuse to redo Isaac's colour palette at some point, and I love pretty aqua colours anyway, so it should be loads of fun. Also on a side note, tight curls are something I've always struggled with in my style. If you look at his hair, it's like really quite small curls. So if anyone has any ideas to stop my line art getting really confused when I'm doing that, it'd be really helpful. The final character in this Speedpaint is actually new this year, and that is Danny, who is my non-binary character. Now, I am sure that I must have known about non-binary identities last year. In fact, I think I did, but the thought of actually making a non-binary character never really even crossed my mind, so I definitely didn't know much. As with my ace girl, I am well aware that non-binary is a massive umbrella term with so many different identities underneath it, quite literally anything that isn't strictly in the binary, which is a lot. So I understand that one character can never fully encapsulate all of that. That said, I have never really specifically settled on any of my other characters being cis in the first place, so feel free to project onto any of the others if you want to do that. But Danny themselves is actually the character that inspired me to do this redraw. I did a little sketch of them as a one-off, and that sketch was so cute that it made me want to turn it into a bigger piece with markers, which you can probably see as the reference on the side of the screen. Until I was like, hey, I should redraw my Pride gang this year. And here we are. Honestly, Danny's design didn't have that much thought go into it, in the sense that they were just a cute little sketch that I thought, hey, this would make a really cute non-binary character, rather than me specifically going through the process of trying to design a character to fit the non-binary identity. And honestly, I prefer it this way around, because, like I said, no one character could really fit that. Admittedly, Danny's hair was slightly better in the marker drawing, but the angle in this piece just wasn't right to give it the level of floof that I wanted, and as I did most of this drawing in 2 sittings on Thursday, I was possibly getting a little bit lazy by the end of it, because I'd been drawing for about 5 hours. That said, if they don't have the best damn pair of hands I have ever drawn, I will be shocked, because I was so proud of their hands when they were done, and actually I really like how the hoodie sleeves turned out too. And you know, drawing this character has actually not only given way to this speed paint, but it's really made me reconsider some of the other characters I've got working in other projects, and like, where can I just add like a little bit more gender diversity into some of my projects? Because you know what, if I've got magic and wizards and flying monkeys or whatever going on, you think I could put some non-binary characters in, it would not be that much effort. And so I'm actually working on redesigning a couple of my characters, specifically because I drew this one character and they are really cool, and I want to be able to put that into my other projects too. So I said at the beginning that I was going to put all my characters in white clothing, and one of the reasons for that is because I had a very specific aesthetic in mind of all of them being covered in rainbow paint splatters. I've definitely seen some photos like this before, although I have no idea if they were actually Pride-related photos or not, and I have never been to Pride, so I don't have a clue if chucking paint at each other is something that really happens or not, but it looks cool. So I downloaded a paint splatter brush specifically for this job and overlaid all sorts of rainbow colours on it. I also took this chance to give a couple characters painted nails or eyeshadow or lipstick in rainbow colours, just because who doesn't want funky Pride makeup? Now, by the time I got to shading, I was already a good 5 or so hours into this speed paint, and so whilst I could have individually picked colours to shade every single character separately, I did not have the time or patience for that. Instead, I decided to go for shading with a multiply layer. So you can just pick one shading colour and it applies over all of them, nice and simple. But this also kind of has some challenges, as it means cell shading, which is not something I usually do. I usually just go for a mishmash of sticking shade colours down and letting the oil brush do the blending for me, which is probably not the smartest way to go about it or the most technically accurate, but it's what I'm used to and it's worked for me so far. Cell shading, however, kind of scared me a bit, because if you don't get it right, it's really obvious. And it also kind of took forever, but I think anything would have taken forever on this piece. As it's something I haven't tried before, I would really appreciate any criticism you can give me in the comments down below. This is probably a method I would like to use on my comic at some point, so any feedback on the shading of this piece would be greatly appreciated. Finally, there was the background. I was originally going to go with a nice subtle blue sky with the odd cloud, make it out that they were all outside. But as I near the end of this, I figured if there's any time to overuse rainbow colours, it's for a Pride painting. And so we got even more rainbow splatter. You're welcome, I know that's just what you needed today. whilst the last few weeks have been kind of stressful for me, to say the least, making this speed paint, from the thumbnails to the redesigns to spamming the paint splatter brush, just made me so happy. Pride means something different to everyone, but for me it's just the perfect opportunity to let out a bunch of feelings that have been building since starting at uni and just say, you know what, this is me, it's awesome, I'm awesome, and I'm going to be damn happy about it, and you can't stop me. And so maybe this speed paint is a little bit over the top, a little bit too much colour, it probably clashes in some places, but to me it's just something that makes me smile so much, and I hope maybe it can do the same thing for you guys too. With all that said, and thank you for listening and watching this far, because I suspect this is going to be a long video, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like and a comment down below. Your feedback always makes my day. Every comment I open up and I'm just smiling. So thanks for watching, and I will see you all next week. Bye!